So till now we have discussed about the transformers, where we have considered the ideal cases, ideal transformer, and so today we will discuss about a practical transformer or the real world transformer, okay, and the equivalent circuit diagram of it. For circuit, I generally write CK, equivalent circuit diagram of a transformer. For transformer, I am using TF. I have already told you. So in a real, in a ideal transformer, the conditions which we laid down was infinite permeability, and then said no core losses, and then we said no winding resistance, and then we said no leakage flux. Okay, so for practical transformer, and the ideal transformer was represented by this circuit, primary winding and the okay. So in practical transformer, the first condition which I would be removing is that the core has finite permeability. So that means to establish a particular amount of flux in the transformer or in the core, some MMF is required there. Okay, so equivalent of MMF, that means there would be some magnetizing current would be required there. Okay, so that means, so if the core has finite permeability, that means it will require certain amount of magnetizing current to establish the right, because it has some finite permeability. So we know that flux in the core is given by the MMF by the reluctance there, and since the permeability is there, so certain amount of permeability is there, so certain reluctance would be there, and to counter that reluctance we need some magnetizing current from the source to magnetize the core. Okay, so it will require certain amount of magnetizing current to establish the flux now. So we have seen the phasor diagram of an ideal transformer, right, either by convention 1 or convention 2. In both the conventions you will find that if this was my phi m and this is Im, so the applied voltage V1 was in this direction from both the conventions, right? So Im is the magnet. Earlier this Im was for an ideal transformer, we said that is almost 0, but now there would be certain amount of Im here, which I am showing in phase with the phi m, right? Okay, so this Im in a practical transformer is not exactly sinusoidal. This is because we generally operate the transformer in if the core of the transformer. If you see the BH characteristic of it, so if this is your H or the MMF and this is your B or phi here, so we generally operate at its knee point. Okay, so at its knee point. So here, if I just want to draw the Im here, this won't be exactly sinusoidal because at the peak or at the knee point, the current Im would be somewhat peaky here, not exactly sinusoidal, so it has some harmonic component into it. So, but here I am drawing the fundamental component, the main fundamental frequency component here. Okay, so this Im you can see is lagging the applied voltage V1 by an angle of 90 degree, the fundamental component of it. Okay, so this is Im, you can say. So this Im is corresponding to this MMF here. This is an Im here. The peak of it would be here at this. Okay, so the Im is actually lagging the voltage, the applied voltage, by an angle of 90 degree. Okay, so in the equivalent circuit diagram, the equivalent circuit diagram of the ideal transformer would be modified by a, because that's the property of an inductance, the current lags the voltage by an angle of 90 degrees. So that's the property of an inductor. So I'm showing it by inductor here, JXM. Okay, and it will draw current Im here. Okay, so in the ideal transformer, we have the induced EMF here E1, and this is the E2 here. Okay, so the equivalent circuit diagram of the ideal transformer now would be modified to incorporate this magnetizing current. So we have seen that the magnetizing current Im lags the applied voltage by an angle of 90 degree. So this is either V1, or you can say that induced voltage E1 as well, right? So we'll modify this equivalent circuit diagram of the ideal transformer by a reactor, by adding a inductor to it, and this will draw a current Im here, and it will have the reactance JXM. Okay, so JXM, it accounts for the magnetizing current. It accounts for the magnetizing current. Okay, now the second condition was the core losses is not there, like that means hysteresis and eddy current losses are not there. But now I'm saying that the core loss is there, or the core losses are there, because core losses means are present. Okay, the core losses are present. That means hysteresis and eddy current, losses are there. And obviously we have seen in the when we were discussing about eddy current and hysteresis losses in the magnetic circuits. So there we have seen that these hysteresis and eddy current losses, it actually depends upon the flux there, right? It was it was depending upon the eddy current was Bm square, right? And hysteresis loss was something Bm raised to the power Steinmetz constant n, which was 1.5 or 1.622. Okay, so this hysteresis and eddy current losses, they were dependent upon frequency as well. They are not the linear losses. Okay, but they were dependent upon the magnetic field. So, and the magnetic field, actually we see in a core, ferromagnetic core, that depends upon the applied voltage, right? So what we can say is that core losses, they are the resistive losses. So now we will modify further. So this the core losses are present. So these core losses are actually non-linear, but for a particular frequency, okay, and for a particular voltage, that core losses would be a constant one. Okay, so we would be representing that core losses by a resistance. So we will connect one resistance here. So this is RC and this will draw current IC here. So if I redraw it, it would somewhat look like this, and then you have this. Okay, so this is your JXM and this is your RC, and this core loss is actually drawing the current IC here, and this JXM is drawing the current IM here, and this combined, it will be a no load current. Even if there is no load connected at the secondary of the transformer, which you can see it here. Okay, this is E2, this is E1. Okay, so the no load current I0 is actually comprises of IM plus IC. Okay, the reason is uh, we say it as no load current because you can see that still there is no load connected at the secondary of the transformer, but still there is some current there. So they are known as some current which is required to magnetize the core and some current which is accountable for the core losses that exist. We say it as no load current or the excitation current. And we have connected RC and JXM in parallel with the induced EMF. You can see that E1. The reason is actually the flux in the core that depends upon the induced EMF, right? Now the core losses, which is eddy current and hysteresis losses, that depends upon the flux or the flux density, right? We represent the eddy current and hysteresis losses by RC. That will depend upon the flux, and flux depends upon the induced EMF. That's why. So here you can see that across RC you will be having the voltage E1 or the induced EMF, right? Across RC you will be having the induced EMF E1. Okay. So and the core losses or the resistive losses, they are the non-linear losses, but for a particular frequency and for a particular voltage, this RC would be a constant one. Okay, so we represent it by a resistance RC here. So now this ideal transformer, the equivalent circuit diagram of the ideal transformer has been modified to account for the magnetizing current when finite permeability is there and to account for the core losses. Okay, so and what about the phasor diagram where this IC would be there? So in the previous phasor diagram, here we have IC here, IM here, and IC here. IC would be a resistive, would be in phase with the applied voltage, right? Because I am representing it by a resistance. Okay, so the combined of it or the resultant of it would be this I0. Now the third condition was no winding resistances. Okay, so now I am saying that winding resistance, the third is winding resistance, windings resistance is there. Earlier for ideal we said it is 0, but now it is there. Okay, so this ideal transformer's equivalent circuit would be replaced, would be modified further, right, to account for the winding resistances. So what we can say is the winding resistance is available now. So we say it R1 for the winding resistance of primary side and R2 for the winding resistance at the secondary side. Okay, so winding resistance is there. So once the winding resistance is there, so during load condition there would be the losses in this winding, and if as you vary the load, so these losses in the R1 and R2 will also vary. I square R losses will vary. So R1 and R2 it is accountable for the copper losses, okay, accountable for copper losses, okay, and this copper losses we say it as variable loss because it varies with the load. But the core losses, okay, so core losses is, we'll say that it's not variable, right? With frequency, if frequency is constant, voltage is constant, so the core losses is generally we say it as a constant loss. Even if there is no load, but still that loss is there, so that's why we said it's a constant loss. So core losses is generally said as constant loss as well, constant loss or fixed loss, okay. Now the fourth condition is the leakage flux is there, okay. So obviously if you load it, okay, the secondary of the transformer, primary you have energized it and secondary you have loaded it, so some flux from the primary winding and some flux from the secondary winding will also leak out. Not all the flux will actually link the, you know, the other winding. All the flux produced in one winding won't link the other winding, right? All the flux produced in one winding won't link the other winding. Some part of it would be leaked out because no material is, no ferromagnetic material is a perfect material, and even the winding, even if we have make sure the winding, we have kept the, you know, the high voltage winding over the low voltage winding, but still there would be some flux which would be leaking out from the high voltage winding, which we have discussed in the beginning, right? So what we say is that leakage flux is also there, okay. Now how to model a leakage flux? Now to explain this, to model the leakage flux in the practical transformer, what we will say is we'll take up this, the core, okay. We'll just start to explain with it, okay. So let's say the flux produced by the primary coil or the first coil, that flux is phi 1, okay. The total flux produced by the primary coil is phi 1. So some flux would actually be leaked out from these corners of the windings as well. Not all the flux, you know, corners or this, you know, the outer side of it, not all the flux would be actually linking the secondary winding, okay. And even some flux will actually leak out from the core material as well, okay. So that means this flux is only linking the primary winding and it is not linking with the secondary winding. So one portion is this. So what you can say is this phi 1t is having two flux, one which leaks out. So what I am saying is that is phi L1t, leakage flux because of the primary one, and the flux which is mutual, which is linking the secondary coil as well, okay. So that I am writing as phi M1t, okay. So capital M, I will write with a capital M here, so plus phi M1t, okay. So this is the flux which is accountable for the, you know, induction of the voltage on the secondary coil, okay. Similarly, if you load it, so the load will draw some current, okay, based on the, you know, the sign conventions, it will draw the current, okay. So that flux which is like some flux, it will draw the current, and some flux will actually leak out in these windings as well. Not all the flux will counter the main flux here, right? So some flux would be leaked out here as well in the secondary winding as well. Okay, and phi 2t, what we can say is that is phi L2t, and then plus the mutual flux, which I am saying that mutual flux in both the one would be same, so that I am writing as phi m1t only. Okay, okay. So now consider this phi L1t. Okay, so if we have applied a voltage at the primary side V1, okay, and because of that some flux is being produced, okay, so that flux would be actually uh, have two components. One is the leakage flux and another which is actually linking the other coil. Okay, so even this flux is a time varying one, right, and it is linking the same coil. So what we can say that because of that flux there would be an induced EMF. So the voltage, if in terms of voltage, if you see this phi 1t, because of this phi 1t is E1t, and because of that we have the leakage flux, so EL1t, and let's say this is the main voltage which is induced in the coil after the leakage flux. Okay, because of the main flux, so let's say that component I am saying as EM1t. Okay, so earlier when I said that leakage flux was not there, so directly this E1t was directly the EM1t, but now I am saying that leakage flux is there, so because of that leakage flux there will be some induced EMF there, right? EL1t, if you see, it is because of the leakage flux. This voltage drop is because of the leakage flux. So leakage flux voltage, if you see, EL1t would be given by, not considering the Lenge's law, but N1, if the number of turns here is N1 d phi L1 d phi L1t upon dt, right? Because this flux, the leakage flux itself is a time varying one, so and it is linking the primary coil, so there would be an induced EMF because of that leakage flux as well, right? So that induced EMF because of the leakage flux and the main flux would be the voltage which would be appearing across the winding, right? So that I am saying is that N1 d phi L1 t by dt. Now this flux, if you will see that can be written as in terms of reluctance and MMF. So phi is basically, if I just want to write phi L1, this would be equal to N1 I1t, right? The MMF upon the reluctance R, and this reluctance will actually depend upon the, so this R is the reluctance of the leakage path. So this we can write as N1 into whole square upon reluctance, that would be a constant one. So this will come out of the differential equation, that differentiation, and this would be d I1t upon dt EL1t. Similarly, we can find for phi L2t as well. Okay, ELT2t for the secondary winding as well. Okay, so for primary we have shown. So if you compare it, okay, so you can see here is this expression N1 whole square by R is actually the inductance one, right? Self inductance of the primary winding. So this is L1. So this I will represent by LL1, leakage inductance I am saying of the primary one, into di by di1t by dt. Okay, so this is an inductance equation here. That means leakage flux in a transformer, we can model it by an inductor. Okay, so by an inductor means by a reactance. So this equivalent circuit diagram So this equivalent circuit diagram would be further modified by a leakage inductor JXL2, okay, in terms of reactance for the secondary winding. Though I have shown it for the primary, but similarly you can find it for the secondary as well. So in both the windings we would be having the leakage flux JXL1. So this is the equivalent circuit diagram of the transformer, practical transformer. Okay, so this is the equivalent circuit diagram of the practical transformer. So this is the equivalent circuit diagram of practical transformer. So where R1 and R2, it is the winding resistances, primary and the secondary winding resistances, primary and secondary winding resistances. JXL1 and JXL2, they are the primary and secondary leakage reactances. So leakage reactances is because of the leakage flux. Okay, this RC is the resistance accountable for core losses, and JXM is the magnetizing reactance accountable for the magnetization of core due to finite permeability of the core. Okay. So now the ideal transformer we have seen. The ideal transformer was modified by eliminating those conditions which we laid on the ideal transformer, and we have converted the ideal transformer with a practical one. But now the thing is, sometimes in some of the solving the circuit, even this magnetic coupling we don't want there. Okay, so what we do is we can refer the impedances which are appearing at the secondary side towards the primary side, or we can represent the primary side impedances towards the secondary side. Okay, primary side impedances. So if this side is my primary side and this is the secondary side, so from the primary side impedances we can transfer this primary side impedances towards the secondary side, and even we can transfer the secondary side impedances towards the primary side. Okay, now you may ask, or you may question that why do we need to show this RC and JXM in shunt and not in series? Okay, so you think, why do we need to, why this kind of representation is better? Okay, so what we have seen, like why, so I'm just raising one question here, why RC and XM connected in shunt and not in series? Okay, so think of it. So if we connect these shunt branch parameter, if we connect these shunt branch parameter in the series, so the circuit would look like this, right? R JXL, R1 JXL1. Okay, so this is RC, this is JXM, right? So what we have said is this magnetizing current IM, right, is actually flowing here, right? And because of IM there is some flux. Okay, now let's say you load this, so there is some load current here, so corresponding to it, some load current would be drawn from the primary. Okay, so the primary will have the current of this branch, no load branches, plus this load current, right? IL dash, if this is IL here. Now if this IL dash is there, so obviously it will either come through RC or through XM, right? So if it comes through the XM, then what you can say is the flux in the core has increased, right? But in the lenses, the connections here in this core, you can see that even if you load it, the connection is in such a way that there is no increase in this flux. There is no increase in the main flux, right? Rather, it draws the equivalent amount of mmf from the source. This is one of the reasons that we don't connect it in shunt. Okay, this would be a better and easier representation. So this generally we don't prefer. Okay, and second thing is, as I have explained before, that RC core losses, it depends upon the flux in the core. Okay, and it's a fixed loss. Even if you don't load it, at that time that losses are there, right? And so and that depends upon the flux density or the flux in the core. Okay, and flux in the core, and flux in the core, that depends upon the induced EMF here, right? E1. Okay, so this is actually not satisfying this. So this is the better representation of a practical transformer, right? Now we can, as I have said, that we can refer these equivalent circuit diagram either of this side. Okay, depending upon our requirement to solve the problem, we can refer these impedances as per our need. Okay, so let's say equivalent circuit diagram of a transformer referred to primary side. Then in that case, R1 will remain as it is, JXL1 leakage reactance, leakage flux reactance will remain as it is. Though I am showing RC on only on the primary side and JXM on the primary side. Okay. One more question may arise, that why you are showing the shunt after R1 and JXL1. Okay. So the answer is, let's say even if you are applying a voltage here, V1 here, so this magnetizing reactance is equivalent, it is drawing the current IM, right? And it is producing the flux, and that flux is actually dependent upon the induced EMF. Okay, so there would be some drop depending upon the the load current or load. There would be some drop across these winding reactances. Okay, winding impedance, I would say. So winding resistance and the leakage reactances, and after that you would be having the induced EMF, right? So that's why I have shown the best way to show these these shunt branch parameters towards the towards the winding side. Okay, okay, so we can refer the primary side, the secondary side impedances towards the primary side, and we know that to refer it, this R2 dash would be actually equal to A square times R2, and XL2 dash would be actually equal to A square times XL2. Okay, so this is the transformers equivalent circuit referred to the primary side. Okay. Similarly, we can refer the equivalent circuit diagram towards the secondary side. Okay, so here R2 dash will be equal to A square times R2 and XL2 dash would be A square times XL2. Okay, so here would be I0 and here it would be I1, and if you have connected a load here at the secondary of it, if you have connected a load here, okay, so this load can be referred as well here with ZL dash, and here you will be having a current I2 dash. Okay, and this I1 would be actually equal to I0 plus I2 dash. Okay, similarly we can transfer the we can draw the equivalent circuit diagram of the transformer refer to the secondary side. What would be this I2 dash? So we know that this I2 dash by I2 would be equal to 1 by A, which would be equal to, so this I2 dash can be written as I2 by A, right? So here it would be I2 by A. So we can draw the equivalent circuit diagram of the transformer refer to the secondary side as well. So in this we can have, so it would be R1 by A square, this is R1 double dash, XL1 double dash would be XL1 upon A square, RC double dash would be equal to RC by A square, and JXM double dash would be JXM upon A square, and then you have the R2 and JXL2. Okay, so here if the source has been energized, here the source has been energized, if the source has been energized, then this would be Vs by A, sorry, or V1 by A. Okay, and the current, if you see, it would be A times of I1. So you can see, you can calculate these as well. Okay, so we will stop here, and in the next class we will discuss about the one or two approximate equivalent circuit diagram of the transformer, which is actually needed for some of the problem solvings where we don't actually bother about shunt branch parameters. So this we will take up in the next class, and then we will talk about the test to find these parameters of a transformer. Okay, the test, the open circuit test and short circuit test there. Okay, so we'll stop here.